Welcome back. It's been a very long time. And today we're going to need my phone, but we're going to go over everything I've read in 2024 so far. Absolutely pretend that I finished this, and I'm saying everything I read in 2024, period, not so far. It's January 2nd, and I'm just now editing it, so, seriously. Pretend this happened already. Thank you. The list is very short. My reading challenge is not bazonk. It's for 15 books, and we have 11. We're gonna go over those. I'm looking at my Goodreads for notes because I've left reviews on most of these. Hopefully it'll be interesting. Will I stand here the whole time? I have no idea. I might go sit down, but I think it'd be interesting to stand. It's a new area. You can see my laundry bag that hangs on the door. I'm a much slower reader than a lot of people on this range of platforms from Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. All of the book insert the end of the social media. My Goodreads challenge, I only set it at 15 books, which last year I did not make at all, by any means. I think I did like 7. To start out, this year I read Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom in the spring sometime. They're the first books that I read this year. I did reread them. I read them in the past, not when I was in high school or anything. It was back in 2021. These both received like a 5-star from me. Whether it's nostalgia of reading them again, whether it's because I think they're immaculate, or just really getting into the found family of it all. I love Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. Thought about just reading their little cameo in King of Scars or Rule of Wolves, I don't remember, but didn't do it. Still very sad about the show. So I read those. I'll skip past those pretty quick just because I've read them before. I don't know. I think everyone who has an account on YouTube and talks about books has read and talked about Six of Crows. Next, and you guys will know this, I read 100 Years of Solitude, which was a very sharp change in time. So I think that I finished Crooked Kingdom sometime late spring, maybe over the summer. And then 100 Years of Solitude, I started July, and then I finished it in August. And I do have a review. I mean, I have my reading vlog up on this account, but I also have my review on Goodreads, which is... Oh my god. Okay, you'll never see it. That much words. And essentially, I thought it was an incredible book. I thought that this kind of magical realism for my first try was a little hard to grasp for my brain, personally. If I started with something like House of the Spirits, I think getting into the new genre for me of magical realism would have been a lot easier, but I do find it to be a pretty beneficial reading experience. It's so different and new if you've never experienced magical realism. And this book, it brought magical realism to so many more people. So I found 100 Years of Solitude to be a good, solid read. I gave it a 4-star. The writing style was a bit much at times. I describe how some of the descriptors of humans is very visceral. I understand that's the point. Doesn't mean that it was easier to read. It was an added benefit that I watched a documentary to go along with it about Marquez's life, like his journey, and it had a section about 100 Years of Solitude, but went through his whole life, through Nobel Prize, through the end of it, everything. Next, I read The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gornichek. Did I read that? My eyesight is not great for someone who already wears glasses. I found The Witch's Heart to be really fun. I started this a very long time ago, actually. I started it like September of 2023, but I just stopped like 50 pages in, did not keep going. But I finished it pretty quickly after 100 Years of Solitude. It's about 2 months ago, but I would say I went from 15% to finished within 3 weeks, maybe a week and a half, because I was trying to finish it before I went on a trip. In my review, I gave it 5, but logically it was like more 4.25, 4.5, so I guess it should probably go down to 4 stars because rounding down makes more sense. I also wrote a pretty long review. I gave it a 4.35 out of 5 at the bottom. Very specific. I thought it was super easy to read. The dialogue was heavy, but in a nice way. Like, it felt as if I was experiencing these conversations with like Angrboda and Loki and the families that were created. I wouldn't say I necessarily agree with all of the criticism this book received from the rest of the queer community, but I understand it. Feels like a third act romance thrown in, not exploring the gender fluidity or lack of gender of Loki as much as people would want for a book based on this. But overall, it was a pretty solid read. It was very interesting to see someone expand on someone from Norse mythology who seems to be, I believe she was only mentioned once in a poem. So yeah, I really enjoy when mythological retellings are more like going into someone that you really barely know anything about. Someone give me a Hestia retelling. I beg of you. Maybe I could do that. You know what? I take it back. No one do it. I'm doing it. So this is our 4th book. I really enjoyed it. It's not gonna be a hard read. I wanted it as something to read after how hard 100 Years of Solitude was. Technically, after that, I started House of the Spirits. I haven't finished. It's harder for me to get through, like, literature books, where they definitely have, like, significance and importance to the world. House of the Spirits, so far, I've got about 200 pages left. I really enjoy it. I enjoy it much more than 100 Years of Solitude, but I would say the magical realism is taken down a little bit than how intense and visceral it is. The feminist themes in House of the Spirits, I'm not saying men can't be feminists, but they're a lot stronger as the book was written by a woman, and there are so many beautiful lines. I want to do like after I finish my read of it, I want to do just going through all the bits that I really loved. And then, not to cheat the system, but it's still reading, I read like 6, maybe 7 graphic novels. Like, what do you want me to do? It was easy in a way to read, not be on my phone, not do something on my computer, not play Dress to Impress. So they're good. Starting, we have Spinny by Tilly Walden. People might know Tilly Walden from those graphic novels with Tegan and Sarah, or the Clementine graphic novel from the Walking Dead game. I actually, so sorry, lesbians in gay world, I did not know who Tilly Walden was, and I was talking to my writing friends from university, and they were like shocked a little that I did not know who she was. But I read Spinning, which is, I believe it's described as a graphic memoir about her time as a kid, coming out, and all of this experience through, like, the life of a competitive figure skater, or ice skater. I read it and I don't actually know the difference between those. I gave this a 5-star. You will have seen little bits if you're on my Instagram. This, I started tearing up at one point. The section with her brother, it was like shocking, but it was such a good read, especially the art and the color. It was fantastic. So yes, the art and the color were wonderful, but this story, like the lens of being a young gay kid in a sport that's so historically feminine, really resonated with me as someone who danced throughout those same years, longer, but also has a really hard time coming back to dance now as much as I love it. As I have said, if I posted the ranting video, I haven't danced in like a month and a half. It's very hard sometimes to go back into an art form or sport like that if you did not have a great experience as a child. And this book was almost healing. I kept saying, like, she got in my brain and stole my memories. I think it's wonderful. I am going to lend it to another dancing friend of mine. I think anyone who's gay should read it. I think anyone who has done a competitive sport should read it. I think if you are at the intersection of those, you should have read it by now. And it makes me want to read more of Tillie Walden's work. So after that, we've got all of the Heartstopper graphic novels, which is 5 books, as well as This Winter. And I'm somewhat in the middle of Solitaire, but it's very different. Little harder, as it's not my exact kind of small novel that I would read. The tense it's in, the point of view it's in, gotta get a handle on those. But if we're talking about the graphics of Heartstopper first, like any other gay person who didn't have a great gay high school experience, or person who has struggled with mental health and didn't have a great high school experience, I think, wow, I'm not gonna bring anything new to the table. The first 3, which are When They Meet, kind of when they start dating, figuring things out, and Paris, are all great. But once we get to 4 and 5, which are what has most recently been adapted in the show, I have much more intense thoughts, I guess, is the best way to put it. 4 handles Charlie's mental health, so his OCD and his eating disorder, and then 5 handles the topic of sex, safe sex between 2 high schoolers, which seems like a strange thing, and I know I have heard from people that they were like, oh, are they gonna have sex in Heartstopper? But I think compared to how we've seen Euphoria, how things are treated with high school age folk and having sex, Heartstopper handles it in a really incredible and almost healing way, I would say. I believe a majority of the audience for Heartstopper is folks my age or a little older, so like college, just out of college, to 20-somethings. And it's more, obviously I'm assuming there are some high schoolers reading and watching and hopefully finding meaning and finding hope for being young, queer, or going through mental struggles, of course. But looking back after reading this, and then seeing the season, but books 4 and 5 are so very, very beneficial, healing. I understand that they're hopeful, and not everyone goes through these experiences, so sometimes it can be a little jarring. Unfortunate for yourself, sad for yourself to see someone else get help, but to me they were very meaningful, especially book 5, which really talks about safe sex and has some funny little goofs in there, but knowing that you're ready and knowing if you never want to have sex, like the Ferris wheel discussion between Tori and Charlie. Spoiler, I really wish that was in the show. I understand it, people are assuming they're trying to get Solitaire adapted, trying to put more, maybe moving that from Tori's story into a Solitaire adaptation, but I think it was a very beneficial conversation and really great for people to read, especially coming from an Arrow Ace author. Yeah, I read all 5 of those. I also read This Winter, which is the one that's set between 4 and 5. Has the Christmas part of the episodes from the show. Again, not my exact style of writing that I like to read. I love third person, I love past tense. This was not either of those, but it was short and it was quick and it was enjoyable. I love the funny little pictures, little doodles that were in there. Overall, I love Heartstopper. I gave every single one 5 stars. I may have given This Winter 4 stars just because it's not for me, but that's like, it's not her problem, it's mine. it's a me thing. And that's okay. Like, I understand not every book and every style of book is meant for me. Okay, dropping back in. When I filmed this, I hadn't read Nick and Charlie yet, but since then, I've read Nick and Charlie, which is the most recent edition. I believe there's actually a 10-year anniversary coming out, because if you didn't know, most of Heartstopper was released a pretty long time ago. I also gave Nick and Charlie 5 stars. The experience reading this, like going back and forth between them and seeing their arguments and seeing them really just like fuck up an argument was really nice. Like, it was aggravating, it was really annoying, it was frustrating, but I appreciate that we got to see that from these characters. I really enjoyed it. I gave Nick and Charlie 5. I liked it more than this winter, and I still haven't finished Solitaire. I'm so sorry, Tori. I don't know, girl. Those are the books that I read on my reading challenge of 2024. Again, mine is a lot shorter than most people, and I don't care. I find value in anything I've been able to read, especially as someone who enjoys graphic novels. That's all I've got. I'm gonna put up, as I normally do, other videos, my socials, which is essentially just my Instagram. I post a lot more on my Instagram, little goofs every once in a while. I like to do funny edits. Put it to Soulja Boy. What can I say? See you around sometime. And I hope this was enjoyable. I hope that you understood some of my thoughts about some of these books. That is all. Goodbye.